Good evening, Facebook. Not sure it's going to be a good evening for these guys. We'll talk about that in just a moment. I'm also about to talk a little trash to a couple of guys I know who are in the Hall of Fame, who are on Undisputed. A guy named Shannon, Sharpe, and this other guy, what's his name? A guy who used to play for the Rams. What's his name? Eric something? Dickerson? I don't know what his name is, but I'll remember it here in just a moment. But my wife Ernestine is standing right here, and she insists that our quote-unquote daughter Hazel, our little one-year-old Maltese who's been a little under the weather, had a little ailment that she's trying to come back from, and I think she's fighting back, but she's still got the cone around her neck, and she had to get shaved. She had got all of her hair cut and shaved, and it's starting to grow back. I didn't want to put her on now, but Ernestine says she's embarrassed if I don't put her on, so here she is. Hi, Hazel. She's still got the big cone on. Hi, Hazel. Can you say hi? Here. Say hi. Hazel, you're on Facebook. You're back. You're starting to get your hair back. Say hi. She's okay. All right. Thank you, Ernestine. That's Hazel. She's bouncing back. She's a tough one, that Hazel. Phew. We thought we'd lost her there for a couple of days, but she's not all the way back, but she's getting better. So, now, back to trash talk. A little quick trash talk before I get to Cowboys versus Eagles tonight. Both Eric Dickerson, the Ram ambassador, and Shannon Sharpe predicted that the Rams would go up there and beat the Vikings because the Vikings just got a backup at quarterback, Case Keenum, and I've been saying for a couple of weeks on Undisputed, I like Case Keenum. Sue me. I just like him. I like his nerve and his verve and his spirit and his playmaking and his chutzpah and his overall body language. I like it. I'm not saying he's great, but he's better than those guys think he is. And he returned to haunt the Rams, for whom he started, of course, some games last year. And he started some games for 3 different NFL teams. So I don't qualify him as just your basic backup. And he played really well today, didn't he, Shannon Sharpe? Didn't he, Eric Dickerson? And I can't wait for Undisputed tomorrow. It's 9:30 to noon Eastern time on Fox Sports 1, because I'm going to have a little something to say to those two. They keep picking against me when it comes to the Rams. They both said that the Rams would beat Seattle at the LA Coliseum. I said, no, Big Brother's still going to put Little Brother in his place. And Seattle did just that. And silly me, I think the Vikings put the Rams back in their place. Obviously, they were about to score a second touchdown. There's a great strip at the goal line, but Forbath, the Vikings kicker, went completely south. Now, he's got demons, and they got problems at kicker because once you lose it, you just flat out completely lose it. I know he made a late one, but it was a little shaky, but he missed his first 2 badly, and that was a bad sign for the Vikings, but they even overcame that. I thought they basically dominated the game, thanks in large part to running the football and Case Keenum just making throw after play after throw after play. So, a couple of guys who are in the Hall of Fame, they're going to hear about that tomorrow on Undisputed from me. You know, silly me. I don't know anything about football. I'm not in the Hall of Fame. How could I do that? How could I keep out-picking them? I don't know. Which leads me to another strong opinion that my partner Shannon Sharpe has on Undisputed. He loves him some, what's he call him, first cousins or whatever. I don't know. I call him Kurt Cousins, as his GM called him in a video made for the team website, constantly referred to him as Kurt, did Bruce Allen of the Redskins. And by the way, I'm looking at New England highlights. Is there any doubt before I get to Kurt Cousins? New England is easily the best team in football. We thought that, or at least I thought that going into the year. They had a really rough start on defense. Now the defense is starting to click. And the quarterback, it should be running away with the MVP, but it's once in a lifetime. It's Winsylvania. There's no way Tom Brady's going to get voted MVP because there's too much jealousy, too much resentment, too much negativity surrounding him. All he did today was throw 3 more touchdowns without an interception. 3 for, what was it, 330? Was it 339? He was 30 of 37. That gives him 22 touchdown passes for the year to only 2 interceptions, and it just he's just running away with the MVP, but nobody wants to acknowledge that, especially on Undisputed, which brings me back to Kirk Cousins. Right on schedule after Kirk Cousins had a big-time game. He puts up big numbers. Remember the numbers he put up on Thanksgiving a year ago at Jerry World? Man, he can just throw parties, Mardi Gras parties at New Orleans. And yet, when it comes to push and shove, when it comes to gotta make the play, what happened to Kirk? He turned back into Kirk Cousins. Did you see the end of the game, the Redskins game? I don't know what he was doing. He just throws it out of bounds, and there's nobody home, and it's intentional grounding. And it was just so obvious. And I said, well, that's grounding. And then everybody's looking around on the field. What just happened? The refs confer. It's intentional grounding. Next play, he takes a sack. Again, it was a blindside blitz sack, but you just can't. You just can't. They were in position to kick the winning field goal, and they go backward. Uh-oh. Game over, regulation game over, overtime. I thought they had it won. He was sensational setting up the potential field goal, and then they go backward. It was so vintage Kirk Cousins, and Shannon Sharpe will hear about it from me tomorrow on Undisputed. Can't wait. I can wait for what we're about to witness on NBC. I'm a longtime Cowboy fan. Anybody who watches Undisputed knows that I've hung with them. I always have their back, but I'm also a realistic fan. I don't know if those two words, if that's an oxymoron, but I am. Sometimes I can be harshly critical of my own team. I just don't love their chances tonight. I loved them to win the NFC East until Sean Lee got hurt, pulled his hamstring in Atlanta. Just horrifying to me, just stomach turning to me. It's just the way the defense is built. It's not an excuse. It's a fact. The defense goes as Sean Lee goes. I think he's the most underrated defensive player in all of football, especially given what he means to that defense. All I hear on Undisputed is Luke Kuechly or whatever the other guys call him. I don't know what they call him. Luke Kuechly. That's all I hear. He's this, he's that. No, Sean Lee is at least as good as Luke Kuechly. To me, Sean Lee does everything for that defense. He covers, he plugs, he rushes the passer, he blitz rushes. He creates havoc on every play. He is a Tom Brady of the defense in that he can read the offense before the ball is snapped, just the way Brady can read the defense before the ball is snapped. And if you take him away, it's like clockwork what happens. And I can show you exactly. We don't have time to get into all the second-level numbers that I always use on Undisputed. But second half against the aforementioned Los Angeles Rams, what happened at Jerry World? They're up 24-13 in the first half. The Cowboys were 24-16 at halftime. And then the ceiling fell in. The roof fell in on the Dallas Cowboys. And it was just horrendous. Todd Gurley ran and caught wild in the second half. And here they came and they dominated the clock. And time was, I think it was 19 minutes to 11 minutes. Dak just didn't have the ball enough. And they can't stop anybody without their quarterback, their spirit, their driving force, Sean Lee. Then you know what happened against Aaron Rodgers. It's 21-6 Dallas in the first half, thanks to Dak Prescott, who had a sensational QBR for that game, much better than Aaron Rodgers. And right on schedule in the second half, they can't stop Aaron Jones, the running back who came out of nowhere for Green Bay that day. And the roof fell in on the defense, not on the offense, but on the defense. Obviously, T will turned into T won't. Nice little pop pass from Dak, hit him right in the hands. It was not thrown too hard. Went right through his hands, right to whoever it was, the corner for the Packers, who basically walked it into the end zone for a pick six that was not Dak Prescott's fault. And then you saw what happened last Sunday at Atlanta. Sean Lee pulls his hamstring, re-pulls it, I should say, in the late in the first quarter. And in the second half, that roof fell in, not on the home team, but on the visiting team. And they ran it like crazy. And Matt Ryan finally started throwing it like crazy. And it got completely out of control, 27-7 Atlanta. And I basically thought it felt like the season ended there because obviously Zeke is gone for the next now 5 more games, 6 games. And please, I'm going to say this one last time. If somebody out there can really explain, I'm still very angry about this, that the court system in the United States of America, we talk so much about Colin Kaepernick and the court system and trying for social and judicial reform. And now a young black man named Ezekiel Elliott takes his case to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, and he's told that, oh, you have to start serving your suspension for 4 games because we can't get you on the docket until December 1st. So you have to serve 4 games out of 6. And finally, Zeke just said, I'm just burned out, man. I'm worn out from all this. He's a football player. He's not a lawyer, and he's had to spend dozens, maybe up into the hundreds of hours prepping for court cases, the way Tom Brady had to do in Deflategate. And same thing happened to Brady, different circumstance, obviously. Deflating footballs versus domestic violence. So the NFL branded Ezekiel Elliott a domestic violator, to me, without convincing evidence. Again, if you want to bust Zeke for all of his other misbehavior off the field, I'm fine with that. 2, 3 games, whatever. You just can't pin it all on domestic violence unless you have conclusive proof. And this is the last time I'm going to say this publicly. The recently hired, 2 years ago, Kia Roberts as the director of investigations for the National Football League. Had a great reputation as an assistant district attorney in Brooklyn. And she was the only one in the league office who interviewed Zeke's accuser, not once or twice, but 6 times. I think it was twice in person, maybe 4 by phone, but 6 interviews. Concluded not credible, no suspension. She was cut out of the decision-making process, whatever. It just goes on and on, but I'm just still angry about it. And if he did it, he did it. He deserves 6 games. I'm just not sure he did it. I'm also not completely sure he didn't do it, but I'm definitely not completely sure he did. So that's what happened to Ezekiel Elliott, and it took, I think, a lot of the air out of the Cowboys. Not that they weren't prepping for this, but I expected them to come out and run the football fairly well with Alfred Morris last Sunday. And that it took until the second half for that to happen. But the bigger loss, as I said on Undisputed, so I'm not being a 2020 hindsight hypocrite about this. I said it the Friday before Atlanta. The bigger loss is not Ezekiel Elliott. Nope, it's that big left tackle out there. Tyron Smith is a stud of a left tackle, and his body's starting to break down. He's got back problems, which led to possibly groin problems, which seems to be the priority issue right now. And by all accounts, unless there's a miracle tonight, I think he's already been ruled completely out. He's not going to play. And they're in trouble because they don't have the right backup there. To Philly's credit, last year they lost right tackle Lane Johnson, and they had, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, Big V, right on schedule, ready to step in at right tackle, and they didn't miss a beat. Now they've lost their left tackle, but Big V's got all those starts from last year, and he didn't seem to have any problem transitioning right over in place of Jason Peters at left tackle, and boom, he just stepped right in, and they did not miss a beat. And a couple of times last year, albeit against inferior competition, San Francisco and Chicago, Chaz Green stepped in for Tyron Smith and didn't miss a beat. I didn't even know I knew he stepped in for him, but I didn't notice him during the game because he didn't give up a sack. And obviously, we know the disaster that happened at Atlanta. My God, I've never seen anything like it before. Adrian Claiborne, who doesn't even start for the Atlanta Falcons, had 6 sacks that should have been 8 or 9. Dak had 2 or 3 great escapes that should have been sacks, but he weighs 240, and he pulled a Roethlisberger and just sort of shrugged it off and got loose and avoided 2 or 3 other sacks. So now it's Byron Bell in place of Chaz Green. Byron Bell got off to a decent start the other night, and then he allowed another sack to Adrian Claiborne. I loved Adrian Claiborne coming out of college at Iowa, but he's been kind of like, I'm not going to say he's been a bust in the NFL, but he had a nice rookie year. Then he's kept getting hurt, had fallen completely off the map. I wasn't even aware he was on Atlanta's roster last Sunday until he started projecting himself like a big fur coat onto Dak's back, play after play after play. Do I think Dak should have stepped up occasionally, a little quicker, got rid of the ball? He's just trying to make plays. Zeke's gone. You got to make plays. He had the whole world on his shoulder pads. Everybody's saying he's going to get exposed. And was he trying a little too hard, especially to make red zone plays? You could certainly argue, but I still thought he had a pretty decent game. Whenever he got time, he made really nice throws. Made a nice throw to Bryce Butler, made some in the second half to Jason Witten. He's going to have to make a whole lot of throws tonight because here comes Philly off its bye week, and they have a hellacious pass rush. Do I think Byron Bell can hold down the fort on the left side? I'm sorry, I don't. I think he's just another guy, as Bill Parcells once called players who were just another guy Jags. He's pretty much a Jag. And they just don't really have an answer to step in for Tyron Smith. And I've heard from second-level analytics guys this week that people have really underestimated just how great Ty Smith has been for the run game, that he has been the driving force of the run game, and that they miss him more than anybody can factor in. Like that, I've seen second-level stats. They're just frightening, just horrifying to me. So they're going to miss him. Will they miss Zeke? Probably some. I just saw Dez is warming up, but Dez had so many injuries, and he just doesn't quite look right to me. I'm hoping that Terrence Williams' ankle that he returned 2 games back against Kansas City when they looked so dominant that day. If that team were playing tonight, trust me on this, if that team at full force with Zeke were playing tonight, they would beat the Philadelphia Eagles. You can just flat out book it. That team had come together and launched right on schedule, right when you need to launch through November into December toward the playoffs, and you just can't take away Zeke, Sean Lee, and Tyron Smith. The only person more valuable you can take away, obviously, is the quarterback, who's still having a really good year, Dak Prescott. And yet, if you take the other 3 away, it's just hard. And I'm not being a hypocrite about this, about the defense. I pushed and prodded and poked and pulled publicly on Jerry Jones. You got to go get some people who have been there and done that on defense. You got to just bring in Darrelle Revis, bring in Antonio Cromartie, some wise old heads in the secondary. I don't care if they're not what they used to be. Get some people who know how to play in the secondary, who can line it up and keep it in order, and just bring some Hall of Fame type presence to the secondary. No. They believe in Rod Marinelli's system. As long as Sean Lee is quarterbacking, they're just fine. So they got kids, and pretty sure, I don't know, I haven't kept up, but I'm pretty sure Jeff Heath is no big loss if he doesn't play tonight. But potentially you're starting 2 rookies and a second-year player in the secondary tonight. Scandrick keeps busting his hands up. I don't know. It's just it's felt like it's not meant to be this year. It just feels like the bottom fell out of the season. And again, I hope they win tonight, but I'm sorry, I just don't see it. And so I concede to the Philadelphia Eagles. I just say, hey, way to go, Eagles. It's your year. You're coming off a bye, hellacious defense, Wentz in a lifetime on offense. He's figured it out. He is Brett Favre. He is Peyton Manning. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it down the stretch, but that's all I hear on Undisputed from Shannon Sharpe. He's Wintsylvania. Way to go, Carson Wentz. Do I think he's better than Dak Prescott? That is laughable to me, but he should improve his MVP candidacy tonight against that defense without Sean Lee. And the pass rush was not what I thought it was going to be last week. And their offensive line still looks really solid even without their left tackle because of Big V. So what's not to like about Philly tonight? What are they up to? What was it going in? I forget what it went up to. But they're a prohibitive favorite on the road at Jerry World. I never thought I'd see that. And they're it. Wentz is the Vegas, odds makers MVP right now. So I give him that. I expect Philly to win. I expect it to be a fairly close game at halftime, but I expect Philly to do what everybody's been doing to the Dallas defense in the second half without Sean Lee, to blow it apart. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. I first guessed it, and I'm going to first guess it again tonight. I'm going to go Philly 32, Dallas 20. I think Dak will play pretty well. I think the offense will be better than it was, but do I think Byron Bell is going to be able to initiate the run game? Do I think he's going to be able to hold down the fort over there on the left side? I just don't. I think it's huge advantage Philadelphia tonight. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong. Obviously, I will be rooting for Dallas, but I'm going with head over heart. I'm going 32-20 Philadelphia, and we will talk about it after the game. I'll see you right here on Facebook after the game.